Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Thank you as always for making this a part of your morning routines. Apologies for there being no show yesterday. I was doing a thing. I can show you what that thing is right now.
Come on, Tomo.
Who'd have thought the Gooner Talk video at the Emirates had a penalty with the chance to embarrass Charlie's earlier effort for papers? Let's have a look.
Oh, good. Coming out.
So yes, I know for those listening on audio that the 20-second clip was not the most beneficial thing for you, but hop over to YouTube and you'll be able to see exactly what it was. But I was at the Emirates yesterday, the media day, which was an amazing experience. I've got a lot more clips and a lot more footage to put together. I'm going to try and do a dedicated video to that, where I show you a lot of what went on. But it was an amazing experience, but I'm in so much pain this morning. I really did give it like everything I could, which I probably shouldn't have done, because actually tomorrow I'm also supposed to be playing football at Molineux, which is Wolverhampton's ground, in a charity match, which, yeah, I don't know how useful I'm going to be, because yeah, I was just saying to my wife, yeah, I always kind of laugh at the people when they say, "Oh, everything hurts," and I'm like, "Well, no, come on, what actually is the matter?" Well, my knees hurt, my legs hurt, my sides hurt, my arm hurts, my chest hurts, my traps really hurt in my back, rather ridiculously. So you might see me doing this a lot during this show. My shoulders are quite achy. Yeah, it's I'm aching a lot this morning. So. But a massive congratulations to the Independents, who won the Media Day tournament. There was 5 7-a-side games. We didn't win any. We lost 3 and drew 2. But the 2 that we did draw, we were quite happy about. So there were 2 really good amount of games, and yeah, I recorded some other stuff as well. So hopefully I'll be able to put all of that together and get a video out. I can confirm, spoiler alert, that Charles Watts scored a pretty good goal for our team. So I look forward to showing that off as soon as I get all the footage. Jose, good morning to you, to Granddaddy Gooner. Good morning to Matt G, to Stephen. Good morning to Wilson, Penny Wing. Good morning to Martin, Norwegian Gooner, Johnny, Matt G, NSW. Duram, good morning to Mr. SNLO. Good morning to Stephen, Steve, Penny Ween. We've got Dave, we've got Gooner Jake, Darren. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. We very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate it indeed. Right, let's get on with today's stories, and then we'll go to the chat box for part 2. So let's get on with these. We start with Alessia Russo's agents, who supposedly met with Arsenal over a potential free move. Arsenal really would love to add Alessia to the women's team for next season, so they've got that additional depth of quality in the forward line, with Beth Mead and Viv Miedemar, of course, still recovering from their serious knee injuries. That's according to Sam Luckhurst of the Manchester Evening News. So fingers crossed we can get a very, very good player in for no transfer fee at all, because the contract at Manchester United has ran out. So hopefully Arsenal can get hold of a very, very good forward indeed. William Saliba's wage demands have supposedly shocked Arsenal. That's according to Mark Irwin of The Sun, which reported yesterday, causing quite a stir online. I've personally got I can't corroborate the claim. All I know is that the club still remain confident about Saliba's contract situation, that they're hopeful that indeed they will be able to renew his deal. According to Spotrac, he's on around £40,000 per week as his current wage. Suggestions from Mark Owen were that the wage demands were around £120,000. I did see Harry Simeu of Chronicles of a Gooner tweet, which if you're not subscribed, make sure you are. I did see Harry tweet saying that he'd spoken to a contact of his, suggesting that £120,000 per week offer was a previous offer, and that the current offer that's been made is higher than that, or isn't that specifically, but you would assume it would be higher. I'm still not jumping on the horse of really panicking. There's a lot of discussions on social media yesterday getting back to that whole loan thing. I really don't get the whole criticism of the loan situation. I think Arsenal handled it perfectly. I think we saw the benefit of Saliba last season because of those loan spells. Before he left to go to Marseille, he came back into the group. He of course played in that, remember that MK Dons friendly that he had? I think that was the year before. And Mikel Arteta just felt he wasn't quite ready yet. He went on loan in the January to Nice, had a decent time in Nice. It wasn't, amazing, but he was very decent, still very raw and needed to develop some more. And Arsenal enabled him to do that by playing every single week at Marseille. It was perfectly handled in the end. The only mistake Arsenal made was that time where we didn't get him on loan quick enough and we then didn't register him for the Europa League. That's the only mistake that we really made with Saliba. But last season showed exactly how much we have been kind of awaiting his arrival. The fans have shown everything they can to know that, he is very much valued at the club. And the club have done that as well because he's used him in every single opportunity possible last season. So, you can't really ask, I don't think, anymore. If there is a grudge being held, which some people have suggested, I think that's on Saliba, not the club at this point, because, you've been brought back in, you've been integrated into the squad, you've played regularly for the last 2 to 3 seasons and are now raised up to be one of the best young centre-backs in the world. Does he deserve to command a massive wage? Yes, he does. Should he be asking for a massive wage? Yes, he should, because that's what he can do. He's got a year left on his deal. His representatives will certainly be commanding a big, big fee, and you cannot blame them for that. And I think, personally, Arsenal should pay up. I think we should absolutely be paying him £200,000 per week if that is indeed what he wants. I would absolutely pay that. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to hopefully this saga coming to an end this summer, and I'm hopeful that Arsenal indeed will get William Saliba signed up to a brand new contract. Arsenal target Gabri Veiga, the Celta Vigo attacking midfielder, is said to be attracting interest from plenty of Premier League clubs, including both Arsenal and Newcastle, says Fabrizio Romano, and is available this summer for that €40 million release clause, so around £36 million. He's been very, very good in La Liga this season. Arsenal are on the lookout for a creative goal-scoring midfielder, hence their interest in a number of other players like Mason Mount. No move has yet been made, but Celta Vigo will not be selling for anything less than that €40 million buyout clause. So if Arsenal want him, they're going to have to pay that amount of money to get him. And speaking of potential players who could, of course, also move to the Emirates this summer, James Maddison in that creative attacking midfield role. Newcastle and Arsenal, according to Fabrizio Romano, are indeed the two clubs that want Maddison. Leicester would be looking for something as close to £50 million as possible, but that relegation, of course, may put extra pressure on them. However, because there's so many teams that are interested in James Maddison, Leicester will hope to still maximise the amount of money that they intend to make off any potential sale. But Arsenal still very much interested in Maddison, but if they don't get him, maybe they will turn to that Gabri Veiga that we just spoke about. Now, Youri Tielemans, sticking with Leicester, is set indeed to leave on a free this summer. That has been confirmed. Several clubs are interested. We know Arsenal have had an interest in the past. I've reported this myself, and last summer I told you that Arsenal were willing to wait until the summer of 2023 in order to sign him on a free because they felt as though Leicester's price tag was just far too high for a player of the year left on their deal. I don't know at this point in time whether or not they plan on making good on that kind of promise. That was their thought process a year ago, but fast forward to 2023 and things have changed a lot. Tielemans' profile has kind of dipped somewhat, and their profile targets are now significantly higher than they were back in the summer of 2022. So let's see what happens with Tielemans, but he's on the market. He will be looking for a club, but there is plenty of interest in the player from both in England and abroad as well. Now, according to Santi Ona of Foot Mercato, Arsenal are set to apparently make an offer for Elye Wahi, who is the Montpellier young forwards. I can't say I know too much about the striker, and if indeed these links do increase and do kind of become more serious, you can be sure that we'll be covering the player in the very near future. But he scored plenty of goals in Liga last season. What does perplex me somewhat about this link is that Arsenal themselves have a young striker who has scored a lot of goals in Liga in following Balogun. Does it make that much sense to allow Balogun to leave and sign Wahi? Maybe because he's more willing to be a competitor to Jesus, where Balogun isn't necessarily willing to be a competitor. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it would happen. Maybe they prefer his profile. Maybe they think the characteristics in his game are more suited to Arsenal's system than what Balogun's are. There are still questions, though, I think are definitely worthy of asking. Elye Wahi, a player that has been linked with Arsenal, and apparently the club are set to make an offer, according to Foot Mercato. And our final headline story of today is, of course, that of Declan Rice. Now, despite talks with Bayern, we told you the reports coming out from Germany that Thomas Tuchel, Florian Pletterberg, reported that Thomas Tuchel had actually spoken directly with Declan Rice. The decision on his side of things at this moment in time is that he still prefers to stay in London, and Arsenal remain to be, or at least in England, but certainly it seems in London as well, and Arsenal continue to be the favourites to land Declan Rice. We will know obviously more about this, and we'll see a lot more movement on this after the UEFA Conference League final, which I believe is on the 7th of June next week. So that will be when I think things will start moving significantly faster. But let's wait and see what happens with this. We'll continue to update if there are any further updates to be had. I did see a report yesterday claiming that Arsenal are kind of acting a little bit similar to Real Madrid in terms of their approach, where they're trying to, like, behind the scenes, get that personal agreement kind of in place before they then move for the player after he then becomes available and after the competitions are kind of done. And they've put a lot of work into this as well. If Arsenal don't end up getting Declan Rice, it's not going to look great. And only if the club that ends up getting him pays a silly amount of money or pays him far, far, far more wages than Arsenal were ever willing to offer him, is it going to be something where we can maybe look at it with more reasonable thought about why Arsenal missed out on him. But Arsenal continue to be confident in this deal. They continue to lead the race for Declan Rice and will hopefully end up getting him this summer. I would love to get him. It would be a fantastic addition to the squad. Now, tonight, we will be doing another tactical breakdown, this time on Ivan Fresneda. Of course, you can watch our most recent tactical breakdown on Sasha Bowie. Reece Turnalar, Turkish football expert, has been speaking to us about him. And of course, with there being any links to other Turkish players or players from the Turkish league, you can be sure that we'll be covering them on the show with Reece. But I'm going to be joined by Curran from the Ball Over Passion show, who's been talking about Ivan Fresneda for quite some time. He's a big fan of the player, and I thought who better, therefore, to come on and have a chat about the Spanish right-back, give you some insight into who he is, what he could bring to the team, and why indeed he is the right choice, apparently, for Arsenal to move for the player. So that is going to be at 8 p.m. UK time tonight. So make sure that you join us this evening for that show. I'm very much looking forward to it. You know I love my tactical breakdowns. But just quickly, also speaking of Sasha Bowie, he did get called up to the France under-21 squad for the under-21 European Championships this summer. And also another thing on tactical breakdowns, for those that have wondered if they were listening on audio where it was, the tactical breakdowns don't come out on audio platforms because there's so much visual stuff with them. I only released them on YouTube. So if you do want to see the Sasha Bowie tactical breakdown, you'll have to hop over to YouTube to watch it, because it is more of a visual show with lots of graphics and work that goes into it. But yeah, I'd recommend you do that. But yes, he got called up to the 21 squads, as did Mohamed Simakan, the RB Leipzig defender that's been linked with Arsenal as well. So we might get a good chance to see both of them play. Bowie was actually the only player outside of Europe's top 5 leagues to get called up to the France under-21 squad, which kind of demonstrates how highly they rate him over there. So yeah, Sylvain Ripple, I think, is the France under-21 boss, who clearly rates him significantly. Right then, that's part 1. We're going to move to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, Penny Ween says, are you as happy as I am that Mourinho lost the Europa League final? Of course. Very happy indeed that Sevilla were crowned champions. There was kind of part of me that I didn't really mind who won. It would have been an amazing achievement, of course, for I think Roma to go from winning the UEFA Conference League and then the Europa League. And of course, with their positioning, I'm checking the Serie A table. They're still going to be in the Champions League next season? No, so they won't be. So they would have been in the Champions League next season, but instead they'll be back in the Europa League because they finished 6th. I assume there's still one more game to be played. They could still finish outside of that. Juventus could still hop into that top 6 if they were to win and Roma were to lose, but they can't get into the top 4. So let's wait and see. June 3rd is the last games. Interesting that Serie A doesn't put all of their games on the last day at the same time. Very interesting indeed. But Juventus and Roma are playing when? Are they playing at the same time? Roma plays Spezia. They do play at the same time. So maybe that's the way that it's been sorted. But interesting indeed. Sevilla, just brilliant at that competition. Mendilibar as well. Great for him. He's a really, really good coach. I remember his time at Eibar, kind of getting them up from the second tier of Spanish football. And for some time established Eibar in La Liga. Really good coach. So very happy for him as well. Louis says, Tom, what were your wage demands when Edu came knocking after seeing your performances? If get me in the Diamond Club each week and to sample their food, and I'm happy. That's where we went up to the Diamond Club after the game, and that's where everyone chilled out afterwards. But yeah, it was great. If you've not yet watched Mike from the Gooners pod, in fact, I should be able to get the video up to show you and share my screen. Let's see if I can share my screen with you guys, because I know he was very happy watching things. Moose, who from TalkSport as well, was certainly excited to be filmed by Mike for most of it. Got a lot of his saves involved. Let me just share my screen with you guys so you can see Mike's penalty. He actually had a goalkeeper in there. I tried to tell him, I was like, if you don't have a goalkeeper, it's just much, much easier to to score. But here you go. This is Mike taking a penalty at the Emirates. Straight down the left-hand side. Good celebrations there. I mean, many a player done at the Emirates, and the knee slide as well. Perfection. So, yeah, it was a great day, and I would absolutely love to do it again next year. Hopefully, I'll still be able to. But as I said, I'm supposed to be playing at Molineux on tomorrow in Birmingham, well, in Wolverhampton. But I feel so broken. I feel so incredibly broken. Let's go to Steve says, nasty question. We can only have one, Saliba or Rice. Saliba. Saliba is far more irreplaceable than Rice. I think there is alternatives to Rice. I don't think there is any alternatives to Saliba. I think we absolutely should do it. Zahid says, should we consider Charles Watts as Xhaka's replacement? Absolutely, potentially we could include him. Charles's goal is very good. I look forward to editing that together, hopefully a little bit later today, and hopefully I can upload it at some point. But yes, Adam says Charles Watts wants that footage. I know he's already got it, Adam. He's already got it. Don't you worry. He already has the footage. Mike sent it to him yesterday. Harry says, Serie A fairness, no chance. Make sure you, as I said earlier in the show, you subscribe to Harry's channel, Chronicles of a Gooner, if you're not already. No fairness whatsoever. The scheduling of some of the leagues is crazy. Honestly, it's absolutely ridiculous. Mohammed says, Tom, what's your opinion on the Hungarian player Dominik Szoboszlai? 60 million release clause. What are your thoughts? I mean, I think there are options out there for that kind of creative player that we could use in the left 8 role. Szoboszlai is more of a player that plays on the left-hand side, can play on the right as well, and has played mostly exclusively on the right and left this season rather than playing as an attacking midfielder. But who knows? Maybe he's a versatile player that Arsenal would like now. They certainly did like him in the past when he was at Salzburg, but not as keen, it seems. Gabri Veiga, James Maddison, Mason Mount are said to be ones that they're looking at more so. But I think Szoboszlai would be a great option, but 60 million is quite a lot of money to pay. Nuna says, oh, same question about Szoboszlai. Hi, I remembered how much you admire Szoboszlai at Salzburg. Do you think that he would be better over Maddison for the left 8 role? No, I don't. I think Maddison would be a better option for the left 8 role. He played that position a lot more, has Maddison, and he's got that Premier League experience, and he's homegrown as well, which is always a bit of a bonus too. So no, I'd rather sign James Maddison at this moment in time. Chris says, you have 260 million after player sales. Who would you spend it on? Oh, these classic questions. I mean, we don't know how much players are going to cost. That's always the kind of the problem with this. If Rice is going to cost 100 million, I'd spend 100 million on him. If you could spend 80 million of that as well on Moises Caicedo, I would. I'd sign Rafa Guerreiro on a free transfer. That's the left back sorted. I'd sign Sacha Boey now. I think that I was convinced by Reece that he's a fantastic option for Arsenal. So 20 million pounds on him. That takes us up to 200 million. So I've got 60 million left to spend. I would like to see a right-sided centre-back potentially brought in. Simican, I guess bringing in Simican instead of Bowie would actually offer you coverage at right-back and right-sided centre-back. So maybe Simmercan instead for £35 million. That leaves me with what? £45 million left to bring in a forward. Rasmus Højlund, I think I would then bring in with the remaining £45 million. So there you go. There's 260, and that's what I'm spending it on. Let's go to Toby. Says, how large a PSG bid would it take for you to agree to sell Martin Ødegaard? I don't think there is an amount of money, Toby, that would convince me. I mean, I'm talking like 200 million quid, maybe. There's no way. He's not sellable. You know, he's absolutely priceless to this team, and I would not sell him for any amount of money that they would reasonably offer for him. Anne says, have you seen the rumours about Arda Güler? He looks like an Ødegaard type of attacker. I have seen them. I'm going to be doing a little bit more digging on that story because I've heard some good things, but I'm going to do some more digging on that, Anne, before I kind of talk about that in more detail. The Blue Cannon says, would you prefer Gonzalo Ramos or Dusan Vlahovic? Do you think if we sell a striker like Eddie or Balogun, it's necessary to replace them? I do. I think we need to bring in a different style of forward. Vlahovic is more of a known quantity, and I had a struggling season at Juventus, to be honest. I don't think he got much more than 10 goals in the league. Whereas Ramos, I really like, scores goals for fun, has that physicality and verticality as well. I think I'd rather shoot the shot for Gonzalo Ramos instead and see what he would be able to do over Vlahovic. But I'd still be interested to see what Vlahovic could achieve. But I really do like Ramos as a profile. I think he's a very, very interesting forward to potentially get in. And Mohammed says, what is the transfer budget? No one knows, mate. No one genuinely has a clue. Yeah, is it beyond the realms of possibility that Arsenal could spend 300 million this summer? I don't think it's unrealistic at all anymore to suggest that Arsenal could spend that much money. If we sell a lot of players, who knows? But no one knows. So I always tell people, if you ever see kind of the war chest stories, or Arsenal have X amount of money to spend, or Arsenal have got financial restrictions, no one knows. No one knows how much Arsenal have to spend, because that's not information that they are going to ever leak, ever give any information out about to agents, you know, to many people within the club, to potential intermediaries, or even to players or other clubs. It's just not what they want to give. So always, whenever you see a story saying Arsenal have X amount of money to spend, take it with a pinch of salt, because nobody knows. Louis says, is the budget at least 7 million? At least. I'm going to say yes, but take that with a pinch of salt, because no one knows. So it could be, but it might not be. Seb says, at least 50 million more than last season. Again, no one knows. There is no way of knowing how much Arsenal's budget is, because it is not information that they want to give out. So I can watch this one video, says, which is a fantastic name, says, have you heard anything on Gnabry? Only that he's very happy at Bayern and has no interest at the moment in leaving. So, no, I don't think that that's a move that will happen this summer. NVR says, what's your thoughts on Reece Nelson's contract offer? It feels like cost-cutting, a.k.a. Eddie's contract. Cost-cutting? I mean, Arsenal could potentially spend upwards of £200 million this summer. And if we're being very honest, the only wide players that Arsenal really are good enough to come in are the likes of Moussa Diaby, for instance. And these wingers are going to cost you 60, 70 million quid, you know. To bring in a player that's going to compete with Bukayo Saka, genuinely, and that's what you need. You need someone that's going to compete with him to be able to invest, to make an investment. You're going to be spending a silly amount of money. And if we're very honest, we have a lot of options in our forward line already. We have Saka, we have Martinelli, we have Jesus, we have Nketiah, we have Reece Nelson, we have Smith Rowe, we have Fabio Vieira. I feel like I'm forgetting Trossard as well. You know, we have a lot of options. Our priorities are midfield, and our priority, secondly, is in defence. And those are the two areas that we need to make sure that we get the strength in depth and the competition and the rotational options in, to make sure that the 42 goals that we conceded this season go down. We can't concede 42 goals if we want to win a title. You've got to be conceding in your 30s, and the low 30s at that as well. So we cannot afford to do that. Now, we kept a lot of clean sheets last season. I think it was, 12 away clean sheets in the league, something like that, which is amazing. But we kept like 3 or 4 at home. I think it was 4 in the end. 4 clean sheets at home after the Wolves game. You've got to do better than that. So in terms of Reece Nelson's contract? No, I don't think it's cost cutting. I just think that it's sensible. You're keeping a good talent in your club. Let's be honest, the players that have come off the bench, Nelson's done more than most, off the bench this season. His performances have been good. His impact's been great. And I just hope that if he indeed is given a new deal, that we see the performances continue. Because there's always that fear, isn't there, when a player signs a new deal, that they've been playing for that new deal and now they got an excuse to dip their performance. I'm hoping that's not going to be the case with Nelson. And I think that there is no downsides to keeping him whatsoever. And I just think that any possibility of signing a player that can compete with Saka as a right winger, someone who is actually a right-sided player, and Nelson can play comfortably on both, I think, you're just going to have to end up spending a hell of a lot of money that we won't have, because we need to spend that big, big money, for me, on a centre forwards, on midfielders, and a defender. The centre forward is the interesting one, because I think actually Jesus can offer a rotation to Saka. Jesus is a winger, in my view, a wide player playing centre forward. And I think if we can bring in a centre forward to offer something, that would be great. Ranted Company says, what are your thoughts on Gnonto? I can't say that I can corroborate any claims about that Arsenal are interested in Gnonto. There's been suggestions I've seen on social media yesterday. I've personally heard nothing on that. Doesn't mean it's not true, of course. I've just not personally heard anything myself. I know he's a player that Arsenal have watched, like the same way that they've watched a lot of players, but the intention to move for him, I don't know about. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Let's go to Vanna Duty. Says, are we quick to dismiss a player based on their level dropping off for a season if they have previously had 2, 3, or 4 good seasons before the poor one? A good example of that would potentially be who, Van of Duty? I suppose in terms of transfer targets, Tielemans is a good option. He's had one relatively low profile season, but prior to that was doing really good things for a couple of years. James Maddison is still a good season, but maybe not as good as the ones previously. I think there's another transfer target as well that's had a less good season. I can't think who it is. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I've forgotten. But yeah, maybe we are. And I always try to look at the whole profile of players and their progression and what they've done in the last few years before making your mind up on somebody. There are players out there that can give you a lot. Who is it? That's really going to bother me who it was. Vlahovic, I guess, is maybe one of them. Yes. That said, his final season for Fiorentina before he made that move to Juve, there were still question marks about that, even though he ended up scoring a fair few goals in the second half of that season after he joined Juve. But maybe Vlahovic is one of them. But yeah, Mason says, what is your point of view of Leicester? Massively underachieved this season, made some really horrible decisions regarding appointments. They probably should have stuck with Brendan Rodgers until the end of the campaign, to be fair. I don't know what getting Dean Smith in was done, other than almost guarantee their relegation. They probably should have stuck with Brendan Rodgers and saw if they would have picked up some more points. But yeah, I think they hopefully will come straight back up. I have no qualms against Leicester. I like Leicester as a club. So yeah, Mudryk is not a bad idea. Mason Mount is actually the one I was thinking of. Thank you. This is Bunga for that. He is the player I think of the most. Last few seasons has been really good. And if we were linked to him last summer, maybe the idea of signing would be a lot more attractive to people. But this season obviously has not been as great. But the whole of Chelsea hasn't been as good. And I think maybe that's why there's a bit of a disparaging look at Mason Mount as a potential target. Let's scroll up a little bit more. Louis says, Tom, last season we were looking at Vlahovic while we were looking at Jesus. Different profiles. I think that shows that we want a striker as well as Jesus. I see this as a Jesus moving to right-wing cover. Yeah, I mean, that's just what I've talked about, isn't it? I think that there is scope for us to bring in a centre-forward that would also open up the door to seeing Dusan Vlahovic or a player of that ilk come in and offer a greater level of variation rather, to that centre-forward position as well. Carl says, Tom, did you hear about the Smith Rowe news? I did indeed. David Ornstein reporting that Smith Rowe is set to stay at Arsenal this summer and that Arsenal have no intention of allowing Smith Rowe to leave, which is really, really good news. And I very much appreciate that. I think it's a good thing. I didn't want to see him go. I always felt a little bit uncomfortable at the idea of letting Smith Rowe go, because seeing him go somewhere else and, flourishing was never a good thing. I was always thinking, well, I could see it happening, but I never felt good about it. And I'm glad that he indeed is going to be staying. Anne says, Charles Watts has posted the video of his goal. Brilliant 10-touch goal. Even Tom gets a touch of the ball there. I do indeed. Right, let's jump over. Let's share this video. Come on. for those that haven't seen it yet. Charles Watts, has he shared the video? Yes, he has.
Still time to claw it back.
Let me just mute that, and then let me share my screen with you guys. Here it is. Here we go. So yeah, this is the goal. So a touch there. Got back on the ball. He runs, then plays it back. Should come back to the left-hand side. I then get a touch of it on the left. Turn the player. Get a little touch on the line to Charles. Charles then switches the play across to Charlie. Charlie then with a ball to his right. He's going to get a 1-2 of a little flick back here to a cross to Charles. Flicks it up on the volley. There's a handball, but it still goes in anyway. Great goal. Great team goal. I think every single outfield player touched the ball once in that move. It was a really, really good goal. So I'm not claiming an assist, Marcus. No, I was involved in the build-up. That's all I can say. And yeah, it was a very, very good goal indeed. So, and that was actually it was the last kick of the game. We were 2-1 down, and Charles with the team and a great goal managed to secure a very, very good finish indeed. And you can see the smile on his face. He was very, very happy indeed to contribute to that. Anyway, we're going to round off the show there. There's over 1,000 of you watching. Thank you so much for continuing to help support the channel. It means so much to me. It's great to see so many of you rejoining us and returning to the show for the brand new summer transfer window. We'll be continuing to bring more updates and more information about what's going on in the world of Arsenal transfers, rounding up all the latest from the last 24 hours. As I told you earlier on in the show, we will be having a tactical breakdown tonight, looking in more dedicated and stringent fashion at Ivan Fresneda. So do turn on those notifications so you can get updated on that. So that will be coming out a little bit later on today. Fingers crossed. Tomorrow, there should be a show tomorrow. I shouldn't be leaving until a little bit later on in the afternoon, if indeed I feel as though my body can take another round of football, this time at Molineux. We'll wait and see. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Very much appreciate your time. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. And as always, up the Arsenal.